There's a narrative we don't often speak of, one that lies quietly in the shadows of a busy, connected world. It's the story of a woman who feels unseen, unheard, and untethered. A woman without friends. If that resonates with you, let me tell you something right now. It's not the end of the story, it's simply the beginning of a new chapter. We live in a society that celebrates curated relationships, the highlight reels of connections, and the illusion of constant companionship. But there is courage in acknowledging loneliness. There is power in standing up and saying, I feel disconnected. Because the truth is, vulnerability doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. There's a misconception in our society that vulnerability equates to weakness. We've been conditioned to believe that showing our emotions, sharing our fears, or admitting we need help is a sign of fragility. But what if I told you that vulnerability is one of the most powerful tools you possess? It is not the crack in the foundation, it is the very substance that holds the structure together. To embrace vulnerability is to embrace your humanity, your courage, and your capacity for connection. At its core, vulnerability is about being real. It's about showing up as your authentic self, even when the stakes feel high and the risk of rejection looms large. We live in a world where we've been taught to wear masks of perfection, confidence, and composure. But underneath those masks are human beings longing to be seen and understood. When you strip away the facade and allow others to see the raw, unpolished version of you, something magical happens. You give them permission to do the same. Vulnerability creates a space for genuine connection because it speaks a universal language. Let's be honest, vulnerability is terrifying. It's exposing the parts of yourself that you'd rather keep hidden. It's admitting that you don't have it all figured out, that you've made mistakes, or that you're scared. It's leaning into the discomfort of uncertainty and opening yourself up to the possibility of being hurt. But here's the paradox: the very act of embracing vulnerability is what makes us strong. It's not about being fearless, it's about moving forward in spite of the fear. Consider this: every great achievement, every meaningful relationship, and every act of creativity began with a moment of vulnerability. Think about the artist who shares their work with the world, unsure of how it will be received. Or the individual who admits they're struggling and reaches out for help. Or the person who says, I love you first, not knowing if the sentiment will be returned. These moments of risk are also moments of profound bravery. They require us to stand in the face of uncertainty and say, this is who I am, and I'm willing to be seen. But why is it so hard to embrace vulnerability? One reason is the fear of judgment. We worry that if we reveal our true selves, we'll be rejected or ridiculed. We fear that our flaws will be magnified and our worth diminished. Yet, the irony is that vulnerability is the very thing that draws people closer to us. When you share your struggles, your fears, and your imperfections, you create a bridge of empathy and understanding. You remind others that they're not alone in their own struggles. Another reason we resist vulnerability is the desire for control. We think that if we keep our walls up, we can avoid pain, disappointment, or failure. But in reality, those walls don't just keep the bad things out, they also keep the good things from coming in. They isolate us from the connections, opportunities, and experiences that make life meaningful. So how do you begin to embrace vulnerability as a strength? First, start small. You don't have to bare your soul to everyone you meet. Begin by sharing a little piece of yourself with someone you trust. Maybe it's admitting that you're feeling overwhelmed at work or that you're nervous about an upcoming event. Or pay attention to how it feels to let your guard down, even just a little. Often you'll find that the response is more compassionate and supportive than you anticipated. Second, reframe the way you think about vulnerability. Instead of seeing it as a weakness, recognize it as a form of courage. It takes strength to let yourself be seen, especially in a world that often equates vulnerability with shame. Remind yourself that every time you choose vulnerability, you're choosing growth and authenticity over fear and pretense. Third, practice self-compassion. Embracing vulnerability means accepting that you won't always get it right. There will be times when you feel exposed or misunderstood. But remember, those moments don't define you. What matters is that you had the courage to show up. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. Fourth, understand that vulnerability is not a one-time act, but a way of living. It's about choosing authenticity over approval, even when it's hard. It's about showing up for yourself and others, again and again, with an open heart. And it's about recognizing that the connections we crave are only possible when we're willing to be real. Finally, embrace the beauty of imperfection. You don't have to have all the answers or be the best at everything. Your worth isn't determined by your accomplishments or your ability to meet some impossible standard. It's determined by the way you show up with honesty, courage, and a willingness to be seen. When you embrace vulnerability as a strength, you create a ripple effect. You inspire others to do the same, fostering a culture of openness and authenticity. You build deeper, more meaningful relationships because they're rooted in truth, not pretense. And most importantly, you give yourself the gift of living a life that is rich, real, and full of connection. So the next time you feel the urge to hide behind a mask or avoid a difficult conversation, remember this vulnerability isn't a liability, it's your superpower, it's the pathway to the love, joy, and belonging you deserve. And when you embrace it, you'll discover a strength you never knew you had the strength to live wholeheartedly and unapologetically as yourself. Connection begins with self-acceptance and self-love. These are the cornerstones upon which all meaningful relationships are built. Often we look outward, seeking validation, companionship, and belonging from others, believing these things will fill the gaps within ourselves. But the truth is, lasting connection starts inward. It begins with how you see yourself, how you treat yourself, and how you show up for yourself every single day. Self-acceptance is not about settling for less or ignoring areas where you want to grow. It's about embracing who you are in this very moment. It means looking at yourself flaws, scars, strengths, and all and saying, I am enough. This doesn't mean you won't strive to evolve or improve, rather, it means you're worthy of love and respect right now, exactly as you are. So often we tie our worth to external markers, achievements, appearances, or approval from others. But self-acceptance asks us to let go of those conditions. It challenges us to believe that we are whole, even in our imperfection. When you accept yourself, you create a solid foundation for connection. Think about it when you're caught in a cycle of self-doubt or self-criticism, it's hard to show up authentically with others. You may feel guarded, hesitant, or even defensive because deep down you're afraid of being found out. You fear that if others see the real you, they'll judge or reject you. But when you accept yourself, that fear diminishes. You no longer feel the need to wear a mask or pretend to be someone you're not. You can approach relationships from a place of openness and authenticity, which is where true connection happens. Self-love goes hand in hand with self-acceptance, but it takes things a step further. It's not just about acknowledging your worth, it's about treating yourself with the care and kindness you deserve. Many of us are quick to extend compassion and understanding to others, but when it comes to ourselves, we're often our harshest critics. We replay mistakes in our minds, dwell on perceived shortcomings, and hold ourselves to impossible standards. Self-love invites us to flip the script. It asks us to treat ourselves with the same tenderness we'd offer a dear friend. This means forgiving yourself when you stumble, celebrating your wins no matter how small, and prioritizing your well-being. It means recognizing that you are not a project to be fixed, but a person to be cherished. And it means giving yourself permission to rest, to dream, and to pursue the things that bring you joy. When you cultivate self-love, you become your own source of validation and support. This doesn't mean you won't value relationships with others, it means you won't rely on them to feel whole. You'll approach connections from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, seeking companionship not out of need but out of a genuine desire to share your life with others. This shift can transform the way you interact with the world. Instead of looking for someone to complete you, you'll attract relationships that complement and uplift you. It's important to recognize that self-acceptance and self-love are ongoing practices, not one-time achievements. There will be days when you struggle to feel good about yourself, and that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect at loving yourself, but to keep showing up for yourself, even on the hard days. This might mean journaling about your feelings, seeking support from a therapist or trusted friend, or simply taking a moment to remind yourself that you're doing the best you can. One of the most profound benefits of self-acceptance and self-love is the way they transform your perspective on loneliness. When you're at peace with yourself, being alone doesn't feel like a punishment. Instead, it becomes an opportunity for reflection, growth, and self-discovery. You start to enjoy your own company, finding fulfillment in solo activities and moments of stillness. This doesn't mean you won't desire connection with others. It's a fundamental human need, but it does mean you'll approach relationships from a place of wholeness rather than desperation. Another important aspect of self-acceptance and self-love is setting being are precious. You become more discerning about who you let into your life and how you spend your resources. This might mean saying no to relationships that drain you, stepping away from toxic dynamics, or standing up for your needs. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about creating space for the relationships and experiences that truly nourish you. It's also worth noting that self-acceptance and self-love aren't selfish acts, they're gifts to the people in your life. When you're secure in yourself, you're better equipped to show up for others. You can be fully present in your relationships, offering support, empathy, and understanding without the weight of insecurity or self-doubt. You'll inspire others to embrace their own worth, creating a ripple effect of authenticity and connection. The journey towards self-acceptance and self-love can be challenging, especially if you've spent years believing you're not enough. But it's never too late to start. Begin by noticing the way you talk to yourself. Are your inner thoughts kind and supportive, or are they critical and dismissive? If it's the latter, practice reframing those thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," replace it with, "I am worthy just as I am." This simple shift can have a profound impact over time. Another powerful tool is self-care. This doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive. It's about taking time to nurture your mind, body, and soul. Maybe it's a walk in nature, a warm bath, or a few minutes of meditation. Maybe it's setting aside time to pursue a hobby you love or simply getting enough sleep. Whatever it looks like for you, prioritize it. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Finally, surround yourself with positivity. Seek out people, experiences, and environments that uplift you. This doesn't mean ignoring life's challenges, but it does mean being intentional about what you consume and who you spend your time with. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it's harder to cultivate self-acceptance and self-love. But when you surround yourself with positivity, you create an environment where these qualities can thrive. In the end, self-acceptance and self-love are the foundations of a fulfilling life. They allow you to connect deeply with yourself and, by extension, with others. They remind you that your worth isn't determined by external factors, but by the simple fact that you exist. And they empower you to approach the world with confidence, compassion, and an open heart. So, as you navigate your journey, remember this: you are worthy of love and belonging, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Embrace yourself fully, treat yourself kindly, and show up for yourself every day. Because connection begins with you, and the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one you'll ever have. Loneliness is a universal experience, but it is also deeply personal. It can creep into your life quietly, in the spaces between conversations, in the silences of long nights, and in the moments when you feel unseen or misunderstood. For many, loneliness feels like an unwelcome companion, a reminder of what is missing. But what if loneliness wasn't a condemnation? What if it were, instead, an invitation and opportunity to grow, reflect, and rediscover who you are? Loneliness often comes with a narrative, one that whispers lies about your worth. It tells you that you're alone because you're not enough, smart enough, fun enough, lovable enough. But that narrative is not the truth. Loneliness is not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of your humanity. It's a signal that something inside you is longing for connection, not just with others, but with yourself. When loneliness arises, it's natural to seek ways to escape it. We might fill our days with distractions, scrolling through social media, diving into work, or numbing ourselves with entertainment. While these coping mechanisms provide temporary relief, they don't address the root of loneliness. Instead, they often deepen the sense of disconnection because they pull us further away from the opportunity to sit with ourselves and explore what we truly need. Loneliness invites us to turn inward, to examine our relationship with ourselves. It's in these quiet, solitary moments that we have the chance to meet ourselves with curiosity and compassion. Instead of running from loneliness, what if you paused and asked, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What part of me is longing to be heard or nurtured often? Loneliness is less about the absence of others and more about a disconnection from yourself. It's a reminder to come home to who you are. Rediscovering yourself in loneliness doesn't mean isolating yourself further. It means creating a space to explore your interests, passions, and desires without the influence or expectations of others. Who are you when no one else is watching? What brings you joy when it's just you? These are powerful questions, and the answers can be liberating. They remind you that your worth is not dependent on your social calendar or your ability to attract attention. It's intrinsic, rooted in your very existence. In this process of self-discovery, loneliness transforms from something to fear into something to embrace. It becomes a teacher, showing you the areas of your life that may need healing or attention. Perhaps it's inviting you to cultivate self-compassion, to forgive yourself for past mistakes, or to let go of the need for external validation. Perhaps it's reminding you that you are your own constant companion, and the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for all other relationships. Loneliness also has the potential to deepen your understanding of what connection truly means. In a world that often prioritizes quantity over quality, more followers, more likes, more acquaintances, loneliness reminds us that meaningful connection is about depth, not breadth. It's about being seen, heard, and valued for who you truly are, not for who you think you should be. It's about finding people who resonate with your soul, who accept you in your entirety, and who are willing to walk beside you through life's complexities. When you experience loneliness, it's important to acknowledge it without judgment. It's not a weakness or a flaw, it's a natural part of the human condition. The key is not to let loneliness define you, but to use it as a stepping stone toward growth. Every moment of solitude is an opportunity to strengthen your resilience, deepen your self-awareness, and prepare yourself for the connections you want to build. One of the most transformative realizations about loneliness is that it often brings clarity. It strips away the noise and distractions, allowing you to see what truly matters. It's in these moments of stillness that you can evaluate the relationships in your life. Are they nourishing, or are they draining? Do they align with your values, or do they require you to compromise who you are? Loneliness can be a catalyst for letting go of relationships that no longer serve you, making room for those that do. The journey of growing through loneliness is not linear. There will be days when the weight of solitude feels unbearable, when you long for someone to simply hold space for you. On those days, remind yourself that this, too, is part of the process. Growth is not always comfortable, but it is always worth it. Each step you take toward understanding and accepting your loneliness is a step toward becoming more whole. As you navigate this journey, it's important to remember that you are not alone in feeling alone. Loneliness is a shared experience, even if it doesn't always feel that way. Every person you encounter has, at some point, felt the ache of disconnection. This shared humanity is a reminder that, while loneliness is deeply personal, it's also a thread that connects us all. Knowing this can provide comfort and perspective, helping you see your loneliness not as an isolated experience, but as a part of the larger human story. Another powerful way to grow through loneliness is to extend connection to others. Sometimes the best way to soothe your own feelings of isolation is to reach out to someone else. It could be as simple as sending a text, making a phone call, or offering a kind word to a stranger. These small acts of connection remind you that you have the power to create moments of belonging, both for yourself and for others. It's also essential to seek support when needed. While loneliness can be a valuable teacher, it doesn't mean you have to face it alone. Reaching out to a trusted friend, family member, or therapist can provide a sense of relief and perspective. Sharing your feelings with someone who listens without judgment can be a powerful step toward healing. Ultimately, loneliness is not an enemy, it's a guide. It's a reminder to slow down, to turn inward, and to reconnect with yourself. It's an opportunity to grow, to rediscover your passions, and to strengthen your resilience. And most importantly, it's a stepping stone toward building the life and relationships you truly desire. As you embrace the lessons of loneliness, you'll find that it no longer holds the same power over you. Instead of fearing solitude, you'll begin to see it as a sacred space, a place where you can reflect, recharge, and realign with your true self. And as you grow through loneliness, you'll be better equipped to connect with others from a place of authenticity and strength. So if you find yourself feeling lonely, know this: it's not a sign that you're broken or unworthy. It's an invitation to rediscover yourself, to nurture your inner world, and to prepare for the meaningful connections that await you. Loneliness is not the end of your story, it's a chapter of growth, transformation, and possibility. And when you embrace it with courage and compassion, you'll emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever before. The human experience is marked by a deep longing for connection, a sense of belonging that goes beyond mere presence and dives into the depths of being truly seen, heard, and valued. At the heart of this lies the courage to open ourselves up, to risk vulnerability, and to create meaningful bonds. Yet, as essential as connection is, many of us feel isolated, not because we lack people around us, but because the connections we desire require a level of authenticity that can feel daunting to embrace. Building meaningful connections starts with a profound willingness to show up as your true self. It's about setting aside the masks we wear to fit in, to impress, or to shield ourselves from judgment. These masks, though often born from a desire to protect ourselves, keep us at arm's length from the very thing we crave: genuine connection. When you choose authenticity, you step into a space of courage. You allow yourself to be vulnerable, to say, "This is who I am, and I hope you'll meet me here." But authenticity is not always easy. We live in a world that often celebrates perfection and discourages weakness. Social media showcases curated lives, highlighting successes while glossing over struggles. This can make it feel risky to be real, to admit when you're hurting or uncertain. And yet, it's precisely in those moments of vulnerability that the seeds of connection are planted. When you share your fears, your dreams, or your imperfections, you create a space for others to do the same. You build bridges instead of walls, inviting people into your story rather than keeping them on the periphery. The courage to connect meaningfully also requires an openness to listening, not just hearing the words someone says, but truly understanding their emotions, their intentions, and their experiences. Too often, conversations become transactions, with each person waiting for their turn to speak or trying to steer the discussion toward their own thoughts. Meaningful connection, however, thrives on presence. It's about leaning in, not just physically but emotionally, and offering the gift of your undivided attention. It's saying, "I see you, I'm here for you, you matter." Connection also grows when we embrace empathy. To connect deeply with someone, we must be willing to step into their shoes and see the world through their eyes. Empathy is not about fixing someone's problems or agreeing with everything they say. It's about acknowledging their feelings and validating their experiences. It's about saying, "I may not have been where you are, but I'm here with you now." When we practice empathy, we break down barriers and build trust, laying the foundation for relationships that are not only meaningful but enduring. Meaningful connection isn't limited to grand gestures or profound moments. It's often found in the small, everyday acts of kindness and care. It's in the text that says, "I'm thinking of you," the shared laugh over a silly joke, or the quiet presence of sitting together without the need for words. These seemingly insignificant moments weave the fabric of connection, creating a sense of safety and belonging that sustains us through life's challenges. Yet, meaningful connection also requires boundaries. It's about recognizing that not every relationship will be deep, nor should it be. It's about being discerning with your energy and investing in relationships that uplift and support you. This discernment isn't about shutting people out, it's about creating space for the relationships that truly matter. When you surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and honor your authenticity, you create a community that nurtures your growth and well-being. Fear of rejection often stands as a formidable barrier to meaningful connection. It's that voice inside that says, "What if they don't like the real me?" Or "What if I'm too much or not enough?" This fear is valid. It's a reflection of our deep-seated need for acceptance. But if we let this fear dictate our actions, we miss out on the richness that authentic connection brings. Rejection is painful, but it's not the end. It's a redirection, a reminder that not everyone is meant to be part of our inner circle, and that's okay. The connections that matter will be the ones where you feel accepted without the need to perform or conform. Another essential element of meaningful connection is the willingness to give as much as you receive. Relationships thrive on reciprocity, on the mutual exchange of support, care, and understanding. It's about showing up for others as much as you hope they'll show up for you. This doesn't mean keeping a tally of who's done what. It means approaching relationships with generosity and trust, knowing that connection is a two-way street. At its core, meaningful connection is about creating a sense of belonging, not just for yourself, but for those around you. It's about making others feel valued and appreciated, about building a world where people can show up as they are and know that they're enough. This doesn't require grand gestures or perfect words. It requires presence, patience, and the courage to be real. As you navigate the journey of building meaningful connections, remember that it's not about having a large circle of friends or being the life of the party. It's about depth over breadth, quality over quantity. It's about fostering relationships that enrich your life and provide a space for you to thrive. And most importantly, it's about starting with yourself, being kind, authentic, and compassionate toward your own heart, so that you can extend that same kindness to others. Connection is a human need, but it's also a human choice. It's the choice to reach out, to be open, and to take the risk of being vulnerable. It's the choice to listen, to empathize, and to invest in relationships that matter. And it's the choice to believe that you are worthy of love, belonging, and meaningful connection, just as you are. In the end, meaningful connection is not a destination but a journey, one that requires courage, vulnerability, and intentionality. It begins within as you cultivate authenticity, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace your true self. It extends outward as you approach others with empathy, presence, and the readiness to both give and receive. Connection is not about perfection or pretense. It's about showing up as you are and creating spaces where others can do the same. True belonging is not found in the absence of fear or rejection, but in the willingness to face them and lean into connection anyway. It's in the small, everyday moments of kindness, in the shared laughter, in the honest conversations, and in the quiet understanding that no one has to be alone. Meaningful connection is a gift you give to yourself and to those around you, a reminder that we are all threads in the tapestry of humanity, bound together by the universal desire to love and be loved. So let this be your call to action. Show up. Show up for yourself, for others, and for the moments that bring you closer to the life and relationships you deserve. Choose connection, even when it feels hard, and trust that every effort you make toward authenticity and belonging will ripple outward in ways you cannot yet imagine. You are worthy of meaningful connection, and it all starts with the courage to believe that truth.